This is what institutional racism is. The whole point is that you don't need to have somebody waving a Nazi flag to be racist. It's about the way she was treated in the press. It's about the way she was treated by the family. It's about the way she was restricted in her role. It's about her true color being black, and that being black didn't fit into the
What's
royal
it got
family.
to do with her skin colour? I come back to it again. What does it got to do with her skin colour? Who at the royal family said anything racist about or to Meghan Markle? We don't know. We've not been told. No one knows.
In fairness, they have actually tried to defend the family, because someone did raise the collar of the baby, and they didn't say who that was. We could guess.
That's not defending the family. That's smearing all of them. That's smearing all of them. They've never said who it was. So everyone is in the frame.
Under the bus, but. No, but the point is, it's not about one thing. So if you look at her media presence, like that first story when it came out, they were dating straight out of Compton. I mean, that's blatantly
one
racist
headline in an otherwise positive feature, which actually was wrong by 9 miles. She actually came from an area of. Listen, I know Kehinde. I know LA. I know where Compton is. I know where she was brought up. It's about 8-9 miles away. The story was off by 8-9 miles.
Exactly.
The feature wasn't actually remotely derogatory about her.
You look at. They have to look at the. For example, you're saying that she was a diva. She was mean to people. She was no, she wasn't. She was just acting in a way that many royals act. But she became seen as this aggressive black woman. She's a diva. That's racism. That's
I've never seen anybody call her an aggressive black woman. Hang on, Kehinde again.
Which is overwhelmingly white, which is only a story she's in it because she's black in the first place. If she wasn't black, we wouldn't be talking about all of this. Who then treats her in a way which is clearly problematic. She then leaves and says, look, I experienced racism and thought about committing suicide. It was so bad. I think we would have to say, yeah.
Well, I want to see the evidence of that too, I'm afraid, because she said a senior person at Buckingham Palace told her she couldn't have help for her suicidal thoughts because it would be bad for the brand of the palace. Who was that person, and when did that conversation happen? Because like a lot of what Meghan Markle says, none of it is borne out by actual evidence.
When you look at the way Meghan Sussex has been treated in the British press, one of the most obvious and honestly painful realities is how race has always been in the background of the coverage, even when people like Piers Morgan try their hardest to deny it. Kehinde Andrews, a professor of Black Studies, said it plainly when he clashed with Morgan on Talk TV. Meghan was painted as an aggressive black woman, a diva, someone difficult to deal with. That language is not accidental. It's not just sharp criticism. It taps directly into racist stereotypes that have been weaponized against black women for centuries. These words are designed to strip women of dignity, to turn the public against them, and to make them seem like caricatures rather than human beings. Kehinde Andrews wasn't just giving an opinion. He was identifying the systemic racism and unconscious bias that has shaped the media's coverage of Meghan from the very beginning. Now let's put this into perspective. Meghan Sussex was a biracial American actress who married into one of the most powerful institutions in the world, an institution that has always stood for tradition, image, and, let's be real, whiteness. Before Meghan, the royal family had never welcomed a woman of color into its core ranks. So when Meghan walked into the picture, she represented change, diversity, and modernity in a way that threatened the carefully managed image of the monarchy. Instead of embracing this as an opportunity for growth, the press, and let's be honest, Piers Morgan leading the charge, chose to tear her down. They reached for every racial and sexist stereotype they could find, dressing it up as criticism or analysis. Kehinde Andrews was right to call this out as racism, because if Meghan had been a white duchess, the media narratives would have been completely different. Let's examine how those stereotypes work. The term aggressive black woman is a trope that has long been used to silence black women who speak up for themselves. It's a way of saying, your confidence is anger, your strength is hostility, your voice is too loud. By branding Meghan as aggressive or a diva, the media created an image of her that was threatening, unlikable, and out of control. But what was Meghan actually doing? She was asking for fairness. She was trying to protect her mental health. She was simply being a human being in a space that wanted her to act like a silent ornament. The press twisted her humanity into hostility, and Piers Morgan sat on his platform night after night, pushing this idea that Meghan was manipulative, arrogant, or scheming. That isn't journalism. It's a smear campaign. Kehinde Andrews' clash with Morgan is important because it exposes something we don't often see on live television: accountability. Piers Morgan thrives on bullying. He thrives on shouting down his guests, ridiculing them, and pushing his agenda as if it's gospel. But when Andrews calmly pointed out that describing Meghan as an aggressive black woman is rooted in racism, Piers didn't have a rational answer. He squirmed, deflected, and tried to twist the conversation, because the truth is uncomfortable. If you admit that Meghan has been racially targeted, then you have to confront the role you played in fueling it, and that's something Morgan has never been willing to do. But this goes deeper than Piers Morgan's ego. It speaks to a broader pattern in the UK press where Meghan has been scapegoated for simply existing, from headlines calling her straight outta Compton to, these absurd stories about her eating avocado toast being somehow linked to environmental destruction. The coverage has always been wildly different from what Kate Middleton received. And here's where Kehinde Andrews' point really lands. That difference is not random. It's rooted in unconscious bias and, in many cases, outright racism. Meghan became a target precisely because she didn't fit the royal mold. And the press knew that exploiting that difference would sell papers and drive clicks. Now, let's address Piers Morgan directly. This is a man who made his career off outrage, who actually walked off his own show when he couldn't handle being called out for his obsession with Meghan. Remember, Morgan admitted he once had a personal interaction with Meghan. He thought they had some rapport, and when she cut ties with him, he turned it into a vendetta. That vendetta has shaped his coverage ever since. He tries to disguise it as journalism, but what it really is bitterness. It's resentment dressed up as commentary. It's a man with a bruised ego lashing out at a woman who dared to ignore him. So when Piers Morgan denies racism, when he ridicules Meghan's mental health struggles, when he insists Americans despise Harry and Meghan, what he's really doing is projecting his own hatred onto the world. He's hoping that by shouting loud enough, his personal grievances will be mistaken for universal truth. The irony is, Meghan Sussex has always carried herself with grace in the face of this storm. Even in interviews where she could have gone scorched earth, she didn't. She spoke about her pain, about the lies told against her, but she did it with dignity. And yet the press spun even that into manipulation. Kehinde Andrews was right. Calling Meghan a diva or aggressive isn't neutral language, it's coded racism. It's a way of making sure that no matter what she says or does, the public sees her through a distorted lens. If she's kind, she's fake. If she's outspoken, she's aggressive. If she's private, she's cold. The double standards are endless, and Morgan has been one of the biggest cheerleaders of this twisted narrative. It's also worth pointing out that, while Morgan insists Americans despise Harry and Meghan, the reality is actually the opposite. Poll after poll shows that the Sussexes remain far more popular in the United States than in Britain. They've built a life where they can really thrive outside of the royal machine. And, while they have critics, they also have millions of supporters. So when Morgan gives airtime to Daily Mail columnists describing Harry as paranoid and delusional, he's not reflecting reality. He's reflecting his own desire for Harry and Meghan to fail, because their happiness and success totally contradict the story he's been selling for years. It's propaganda disguised as commentary, and it just collapses under the weight of facts. And here's the heart of the matter. Meghan Sussex was never just fighting against the royal family. She was fighting against a media system that thrives on character assassination. Kehinde Andrews, as a scholar of race and culture, saw this clearly. He saw that the language used against Meghan wasn't random. It wasn't just harsh criticism. It was loaded, racially coded language that aimed to destroy her reputation. And honestly, the saddest part is, it worked. The constant negativity drove Meghan to a place where she admitted she didn't want to live anymore. That is the human cost of this media cruelty, and people like Piers Morgan bear responsibility for it. So when Morgan tries to brush off accusations of racism, when he sneers at Meghan's struggles, or when he paints her as manipulative, we have to ask, why is he so invested in tearing down one woman? Why does he dedicate so much time to attacking her, even years after she left Britain? The answer is simple, really. Meghan represents a truth that Morgan can't stand, that the monarchy and the British media are not untouchable, that racism and bias are alive and well in these institutions, and that their behavior has consequences. Kehinde Andrews gave us a moment of clarity on that Talk TV segment, a moment where the veil was lifted, and it's a reminder that we, too, have to see through the noise. Meghan Sussex is not the villain Piers Morgan paints her to be. She is a woman who stepped into a hostile environment, who tried to bring compassion and modernity into an outdated system, and who was met with cruelty for daring to be herself. The media may try to twist that story, but, history will remember it differently. Because in the end, it's not Meghan who looks bitter, paranoid, or delusional. It's Piers Morgan. His obsession, his anger, his denial of racism, all of it reveals far more about him than it ever did about Meghan. Kehinde Andrews showed us that when you name racism for what it is, you cut through the noise, and that is what we must continue to do: defend truth, defend fairness, and defend those who are attacked simply for daring to exist in spaces where they were never supposed to belong.